All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today we're going to be talking about winter bass fishing. We're bundled up, we're cold, the fish cold, the water's cold, everything's cold. We're going to be talking about how to break down the lake when you go out in super cold weather. So stay tuned, this is something you don't want to miss. All right, everybody, so this time of year, a lot of people kind of get caught up on, well, I'm not catching a bunch of fish, I'm not catching 100 fish in a day. It's kind of frustrating. You're cold, the fish are cold, the water's cold, but one of the things that I can highly suggest, if you have a spotted bass fishery near you, fish it, because most of the time these spotted bass and smallmouth are going to be more active in the colder weather. It's just the way they are, the attitudes they have and stuff like that. But either way, with that being said, where would you typically want to start fishing? Me personally, I love fishing the main lake. Okay, so like your main lake points is typically where I'm going to be fishing 99% of the winter. Now other times I'm going to be focusing on like transition zones, which is like where right here we have clay that's kind of sandy, and then it goes over to rock, like chunk rock, and then as we move further down we go to huge bluff rocks. And in between those, transition zones where it goes from like sand to pebbles, a lot of times you're going to get a lot of bites like that. But one of the biggest things I can say is, I like to fish fast. I like to cover a lot of water, but this time of year, I'm moving slow. I'm talking, just kind of creeping that bait. I'm trying not to, it's not that action is a bad thing, but you necessarily don't want too much action, okay? Because everything's cold. Everything's cold. When a minnow swims when it's cold, I mean, it's just barely going through the water. It's not darting or going crazy or anything like that. Now, these spotted bass, they will run stuff down pretty aggressively, which is one of the main reasons that I like fishing spotted bass fisheries during the winter. But still, you're going to have days where you're going to catch, if you fish 4 or 5 hours, you're probably going to catch anywhere from 10 to 20 fish, on a good day. On those rough days, you're talking, anywhere between 3 and 8, so I'm just giving a rough estimate, just a guesstimate. But, needless to say, a lot of times during the winter, you're just not going to get a whole lot of bites. But now, most of the time in my experience in the winter, that's typically when you're going to catch your bigger fish. There's not as much pressure on the lakes. Now, here lately, this is Lewis Smith Lake. I've noticed over the past few years that it has really become very populated with fishermen, and for good reason. The spotted bass are growing like crazy. They're a lot of fun to catch. They're very aggressive. You can just use those baits that you love to use to catch these fish. But with that being said, more fishing pressure is more fishing pressure. You're just not going to get as many bites as you used to would, so during the winter you kind of have to take that into consideration, that the boat traffic, the pressure is slowing down, but you're still going to have your hardcore anglers that love to fish during the winter, so that pressure is going to be there. That's when I talk about, I'm still focusing on those main lake points, but like this morning we hit the south banks of points. We moved over here to the north and not a whole lot's happening there either. So now we're really going to focus in on these transition zones and just kind of see where the fish are. Maybe, maybe there's some on the transitions. Maybe we can establish a pattern on that, but we're seeing fish spread out. We got a front coming through, stuff like that. So, a lot of times during the winter it can be extremely tough, but, don't give up on the day no matter what you do. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is ditches. Okay, so if you hadn't watched my ditch fishing video, make sure to check it out. Ditches is going to be a great way to catch I'm not going to say a whole lot of fish, but fine fish that are active. Most of the time you're going to catch, if you see 15 fish in a ditch, you're probably going to catch 1 or 2 out of that ditch, and then you're going to have to find them again in another area. You can always do like I talk about with the points, where you rotate the points. Fish one, catch a few fish, move to the next one, catch a few fish, move to the next one, and then rotate those points throughout the day. You can do the same pretty much with ditches, but finding those fish in those ditches, it's going to be a great way to catch you know, a good bit of fish throughout the day, even on those tough days. It's really just kind of dialing in what the fish want. You know, sometimes they're going to be chasing bait, and other times they're just going to be suspended and not really wanting to chase anything. So you're kind of going to have to go to those real super finessey presentations. One of the things that I like to do during the winter, just because in my personal opinion it's one of the best times to catch your PB, I like throwing the bigger swim baits and stuff like that, simply because I can cover a lot of water, and typically I'm not going to get a whole lot of bites, but the bites that I do, they're typically going to be good fish in that 2+ pound range. So winter bass fishing is, you know, it's pretty simple. You basically want to stay close to your main lake. If you get a lot of rains in, you want to push back into the pockets and in the creeks where the run-ins are coming in. And then, you know, once those rains slow down and those run-ins are pretty much dry again, those fish are kind of going to start moving their way back out. Once they do that, those channel bends in the creeks, those secondary points and stuff, those are going to be great options. And don't ever forget, there's always fish that live in the creeks year-round, whether it's summer, winter, fall, spring, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be fish in the creek. So it's never not really a good time to fish creeks. That's one of the things. Today, that's probably what we should be doing, but the water's drawn down so much it's hard to get in the back of a lot of these creeks because the docks are so close together you can't get the boat back there. But, you know, don't rule out the creeks this time of year. Those channel bends with a lot of chunk rock on it's a great time, you know, to throw rock crawlers and war pigs and lipless or Sergeant lipless crankbait, all whatever you like to throw as far as your hard baits to bounce off rocks and stuff to trigger a lot of bites. That's the main thing, is, you know, making contact with that bottom composition. But, you know, no matter where you're fishing, winter can be a tough time, but keep it simplified. Keep your bait simple. You don't want a whole lot of action. If you're running that jerk bait or something like that, you know, you want to work it slow. Okay, extend your pauses. The water temperature here today is 51 degrees, so it's dropped about 10 degrees just in a week or so. So, you know, either way, guys, I hope the video helps you. You know, it's kind of a short and sweet video on winter fishing, but, you know, I just kind of wanted to cover the areas that I highly suggest, you know, you really focus on. Don't spend too much time focusing on those areas that's not very productive. Yes, you want to slow down, but you also want to pay attention to what the fish are telling you. If you're on an area and you're not getting bit, then you know you need to move or make some kind of minor adjustment, especially if there's a lot of fish around you, or a major adjustment a lot of times. But, you know, either way, if the video helped you at all, make sure to like, subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. Comment, not only, you know, if you just like to talk fishing, for the algorithm, it helps me out a whole lot. If you want to become a member, $2 a month, you get my content early, and it helps me out a whole lot with gas and stuff like that. All my sponsors, links, all that stuff's down in the description. Check it out. Either way, guys, I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.